You know what's interesting about your brain? It's incredibly good at solving problems alone. And if you're someone who rarely asks for help, people probably don't understand why. They might call you stubborn, or independent, or even closed off. But the psychology behind this behavior is way more complex than most people realize. And if this sounds like you, you're about to understand yourself a lot better. Here's what society gets wrong. When you don't ask for help, people assume you think you're better than everyone else, or that you don't trust anyone. But that's not usually what's happening in your brain at all. The truth is, people like you have often learned through experience that asking for help comes with a cost. Maybe it was disappointing in the past. Maybe vulnerability didn't feel safe. Or maybe your brain just became wired to solve things internally because that's what felt most predictable. This isn't about pride, it's about emotional intelligence that developed as a response to your environment. From a psychology perspective, there's actually a fascinating pattern in human behavior here. When you grow up in situations where help wasn't available, or where asking for it led to judgment or inconsistency, your brain starts to build what we call self-reliance as a survival strategy. It's not a flaw in your mindset, it's adaptation. Your nervous system learns that independence equals safety, and once that neural pathway gets reinforced, it becomes your default. There's also something called cognitive load management. People like you often have a brain that prefers processing things internally because external input can feel chaotic or unpredictable. You're not rejecting connection, you're managing your mental energy in a way that feels sustainable. That's actually a form of self-awareness, even if it doesn't always look that way from the outside. And here's what's important to understand. This trait isn't superior, but it's also not broken. It just means your emotional intelligence developed around autonomy instead of interdependence. Some people recharge through collaboration. You recharge through solving things on your own. Neither is better. They're just different expressions of how the brain adapts to feel safe and capable. The people who judge you for this usually just process the world differently, and that's okay too. Now, there is one thing worth being aware of. Sometimes this pattern can make it harder to let people in, even when you actually want to. Not because you're incapable of connection, but because your brain has been trained to see asking for help as a risk. So if you ever feel isolated or misunderstood, it might not be that people don't care. It might just be that your self-awareness around this behavior hasn't caught up with your need for deeper connection. And recognizing that isn't weakness, it's growth. If you're someone who rarely asks for help, you're not damaged, you're not emotionally stunted. Your brain just learned to protect you in a specific way, and now that you understand the psychology behind it, you get to decide what to do with that awareness. You can keep operating the way you do, and that's completely valid. Or you can start experimenting with small moments of vulnerability just to see what happens. Either way, you're not alone in this. A lot of people like you exist quietly, navigating the world with this exact mindset. If this felt like it was describing you, you're not alone. A lot of people experience this quietly. You can share your experience in the comments, or just read others and realize how common it really is. And if you want psychology that helps you understand yourself without tearing you down, subscribe, because this channel is built for people like you. Thanks for being here.